Mixed martial arts is a full-contact combat sport that allows the use of both striking and grappling techniques, both standing and on the ground, from a variety of other combat sports and martial arts. Various mixed-style contests took place throughout Europe, Japan and the Pacific Rim during the early 1900s. The combat sport of vale tudo that had developed in Brazil from the 1920s was brought to the United States by the Gracie family in 1993 with the founding of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. The more dangerous vale tudo-style bouts of the early UFCs were made safer with the implementation of additional rules, leading to the popular regulated form of MMA seen today. Originally promoted as a competition with the intention of finding the most effective martial arts for real unarmed combat situations, competitors were pitted against one another with few rules. Later, fighters employed multiple martial arts into their style while promoters adopted additional rules aimed at increasing safety for competitors and to promote mainstream acceptance of the sport. The name mixed martial arts was coined by television critic Howard Rosenberg, in 1993, in his review of UFC 1. The term gained popularity when the website newfullcontact.com, then one of the biggest covering the sport, hosted and reprinted the article. Following these changes, the sport has seen increased popularity with a pay-per-view business that rivals boxing and professional wrestling. History. Early history. During the classic Greek era there existed an ancient Olympic combat sport, known as pankration, which featured a combination of grappling and striking skills, similar to modern mixed martial arts. This sport originated in ancient Greece and was later passed on to the Romans. No-holds-barred fighting reportedly took place in the late 1880s when wrestlers representing styles, Greco-Roman wrestling and many others met in tournaments and music hall challenge matches throughout Europe. In the USA, the first major encounter between a boxer and a wrestler in modern times took place in 1887 when John L. Sullivan, then heavyweight world boxing champion, entered the ring with his trainer, Greco-Roman wrestling champion William Muldoon, and was slammed to the mat in 2 minutes. The next publicized encounter occurred in the late 1890s when future heavyweight boxing champion Bob Fitzsimmons took on European Greco-Roman wrestling champion Ernest Roeber. In September 1901, Frank "Paddy" Slavin, who had been a contender for Sullivan's boxing title, knocked out future World Wrestling Champion Frank Gotch in Dawson City, Canada. Another early example of mixed martial arts was Bartitsu, which Edward William Barton Wright founded in London in 1899. Combining judo, jujutsu, boxing, savate and kanda combat, Bartitsu was the first martial art known to have combined Asian and European fighting styles, and which saw MMA-style contests throughout England, pitting European and Japanese champions against representatives of various European wrestling styles. The history of modern MMA competition can be traced to mixed-style contests throughout Europe, Japan, and the Pacific Rim during the early 1900s. In Japan these contests were known as Amerikan, from the Japanese slang for American, fighting. Amerikan contests were fought under a variety of rules including points decision, best of 3 throws or knockdowns, and victory via knockout or submission. As the popularity of professional wrestling waned after World War I it split into 2 genres, shoot, in which the fighters actually competed, and show, which evolved into modern professional wrestling. In 1936, heavyweight boxing contender Kingfish Levinsky and veteran professional wrestler Ray Steele competed in a mixed match, which Steele won in 35 seconds. In 1963, judo Gene LeBell fought professional boxer Milo Savage in a no-holds-barred match. LeBell won by Horikoshi to rear naked choke, leaving Savage unconscious. This was the very first televised bout of mixed-style fighting in North America. The hometown crowd was so enraged that they began to boo and throw chairs at LeBell. At one point, LeBell was stabbed while leaving the ring. In the late 1960s to early 1970s, the concept of combining the elements of multiple martial arts was popularized in the West by Bruce Lee via his system philosophy of Jeet Kune Do. Lee believed that the best fighter is not a boxer, karate or judo man. The best fighter is someone who can adapt to any style, to be formless, to adopt an individual's own style and not following the system of styles. In 2004, UFC President Dana White would call Lee the father of mixed martial arts, stating, "If you look at the way Bruce Lee trained, the way he fought, and many of the things he wrote, he said the perfect style was no style. You take a little something from everything. You take the good things from every different discipline, use what works, and you throw the rest away." Muhammad Ali vs. Antonio Inoki took place in Japan in 1976. Both fighters refused to engage in the other's style, and after a 15-round stalemate, it was declared a draw. Inoki flopped to his back for the duration of the bout and kicked Ali's legs. Ali had sustained a substantial amount of damage to his legs, causing him to be hospitalized for the next 3 days. In 1988, Rick Rufus challenged Changpuk Kiatsongrit to a non-title Muay Thai vs. kickboxing super fight. Rick Rufus was at the time an undefeated kickboxer and held both the Kick Super Middleweight World title and the PKC Middleweight US title. Changpuk Kiatsongrit, an accomplished, was finding it increasingly difficult to get fights in Thailand, as his weight was not typical for a Thai, where competitive bouts tend to be at the lower weights. Rufus knocked Changpuk down twice with punches in the first round, breaking Changpuk's jaw, but lost by knockout in the fourth round due to the culmination of low kicks that he was unprepared for. Modern sport, the movement that led to the creation of the American and Japanese mixed martial arts scenes, was rooted in two interconnected subcultures and two grappling styles, namely Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and shoot wrestling. First were the vale tudo events in Brazil, followed by the Japanese shoot-style wrestling shows. Vale tudo began in the 1920s and became renowned with a Gracie challenge issued by Carlos Gracie and Ha copyright Leo Gracie, and upheld later on by descendants of the Gracie family. The A-Euro-OE Gracie challenges were held in the garages and gyms of the Gracie family members. When the popularity grew, these types of mixed bouts were a staple attraction at carnivals in Brazil. Early mixed match martial arts professional wrestling bouts in Japan, literally heterogeneous combat sports bouts, became popular with Antonio Inoki in the 1970s. Inoki was a disciple of Rikidozan, but also of Karl Gotch, who trained numerous Japanese wrestlers in catch wrestling. Mixed martial arts competitions were introduced in the United States with the first Ultimate Fighting Championship in 1993. The sport gained international exposure and widespread publicity when Jiu-Jitsu fighter Royce Gracie won the first Ultimate Fighting Championship tournament, submitting 3 challenges in a total of just 5 minutes, sparking a revolution in martial arts. Japan had its own form of mixed martial arts discipline, Shuto, that evolved from shoot wrestling in 1985, as well as the shoot wrestling derivative Pamrace, founded as a promotion in 1993. The first Vale Tudo Japan tournaments were held in 1994 and 1995, both were won by Ricks and Gracie. Around the same time, international Vale Tudo competition started to develop through VTJ, IVC, UVF, etc. Interest in mixed martial arts as a sport resulted in the creation of the Pride Fighting Championships in 1997, where again Rickson participated and won. Origin of MMA. The term mixed martial arts was coined by television critic Howard Rosenberg, in 1993, in his review of UFC 1. The term gained popularity when the website newfullcontact.com, then one of the biggest covering the sport, hosted and reprinted the article. The first use of the term by a promotion was in September 1995 by Rick Bloom, president and CEO of Battlecade Extreme Fighting, just after UFC 7. Jeff Blatnick was responsible for the Ultimate Fighting Championship officially adopting the name Mixed Martial Arts. Previously marketed as Ultimate Fighting, and No Holds Barred, Blatnick and John McCarthy proposed the name MMA at the UFC 17 rules meeting in response to increased public criticism. The term is generally attributed to Howard Rosenberg. Regulation. In March 1997, the Iowa Athletic Commission officially sanctioned Battlecade Extreme Fighting under a modified form of its existing rules for shoot fighting. These rules created the 3, 5-minute round, 1-minute break format, and mandated shoot fighting gloves as well as weight classes for the first time. Illegal blows were listed as groin strikes, head butting, biting, eye gouging, hair pulling, striking an opponent with an elbow while the opponent is on the mat, kidney strikes, and striking the back of the head with closed fist. Holding on to the ring or cage for any reason was defined as foul. While there are minor differences between these and the final unified rules, notably regarding elbow strikes, the Iowa rules allowed mixed martial arts promoters to conduct essentially modern events legally, anywhere in the state. On March 28, 1997, Extreme Fighting 4 was held under these rules, making it the first officially sanctioned mixed martial arts event, and the first show conducted under a version of the modern rules. In April 2000, the California State Athletic Commission voted unanimously in favor of regulations that later became the foundation for the unified rules of mixed martial arts. However, when the legislation was sent to California's Capitol for review, it was determined that the sport fell outside the jurisdiction of the CSAC, rendering the vote superfluous. In September 2000, the New Jersey State Athletic Control Board began to allow mixed martial arts promoters to conduct events in New Jersey. The intent was to allow the NJSACB to observe actual events and gather information to establish a comprehensive set of rules to effectively regulate the sport. On April 3, 2001, the NJSACB held a meeting to discuss the regulation of mixed martial arts events. This meeting attempted to unify the myriad rules and regulations which have been utilized by the different mixed martial arts organizations. At this meeting, the proposed uniform rules were agreed upon by the NJSACB, several other regulatory bodies, numerous promoters of mixed martial arts events and other interested parties in attendance. At the conclusion of a meeting, all parties in attendance were able to agree upon a uniform set of rules to govern the sport of mixed martial arts. The rules adopted by the NJSACB have become the de facto standard set of rules for professional mixed martial arts across North America. On July 30, 2009, a motion was made at the annual meeting of the Association of Boxing Commissions to adopt these rules as the unified rules of mixed martial arts. The motion passed unanimously. In November 2005, the United States Army began to sanction mixed martial arts with the first annual Army Combatives Championships held by the U.S. Army Combatives School. Canada formally decriminalized mixed martial arts with a vote on Bill S-209 on June 5, 2013. The bill allows for provinces to have the power to create athletic commissions to regulate and sanction professional mixed martial arts bouts. Growth. The sport reached a new peak of popularity in North America in the December 2006 rematch between then UFC light heavyweight champion Chuck Liddell and former champion Tito Ortiz, rivaling the PPV sales of some of the biggest boxing events of all time, and helping the UFC's 2006 PPV gross surpass that of any promotion in PPV history. In 2007, Zuffa LLC, the owners of the UFC MMA promotion, bought Japanese rival MMA brand Pride FC, merging the contracted fighters under one promotion and drawing comparisons to the consolidation that occurred in other sports, such as the AFL-NFL merger in American football. Since the UFC came to prominence in mainstream media in 2006, and with their 2007 merger with Pride FC and purchase of WEC, few companies have presented significant competition. However, numerous organizations have held shows of significance while competing against the UFC. The most notable competition has included Pride Fighting Championships, World Extreme Fighting, International Fight League, Elite XC, Dream, Striker Force, Bellator Fighting Championships, One Fighting Championship, World Series of Fighting. On April 30, 2011, UFC 129 set a new North American MMA attendance record, drawing 55,724 at the Rogers Centre in Toronto. The event also set a new MMA world record for the highest paid gate at $12,075,000 and is the highest gate in Toronto for any event. In 2011, the UFC reached a multi-year deal with the FOX network, a tremendous milestone in the organization, bringing the sport to mainstream media. Development of fighters. As a result of an increased number of competitors, organized training camps, information sharing, and modern kinesiology, the understanding of the combat effectiveness of various strategies has been greatly improved. UFC commentator Joe Rogan claimed that martial arts evolved more in the 10 years following 1993 than in the preceding 700 years combined. The high profile of modern MMA promotions such as UFC and Pride has fostered an accelerated development of the sport. The early 1990s saw a wide variety of traditional styles competing in the sport. However, early competition saw varying levels of success among disparate styles. In the early 1990s, practitioners of grappling-based styles such as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu dominated competition in the United States. Practitioners of striking-based arts such as boxing, kickboxing, and karate who were unfamiliar with submission grappling proved to be unprepared to deal with its submission techniques. As competitions became more and more common, those with a base in striking arts became more competitive as they cross-trained in arts based around takedowns and submission holds. Likewise, those from the varying grappling styles added striking techniques to their arsenal. This increase of cross-training resulted in fighters becoming increasingly multidimensional and well-rounded in their skill sets. The new hybridization of fighting styles can be seen in the technique of ground and pound developed by wrestling-based UFC pioneers such as Dan Severn, Don Frye and Mark Coleman. These wrestlers realized the need for the incorporation of strikes on the ground as well as on the feet, and incorporated ground striking into their grappling-based styles. Mark Coleman stated at UFC 14 that his strategy was to ground him and pound him, which may be the first televised use of the term. Since the late 1990s, both strikers and grapplers have been successful at MMA, though it is rare to see any fighter who is not schooled in both striking and grappling arts reach the highest levels of competition. The greatest MMA fighter of all time is considered by experts, fighters and fans to be either heavyweight Fedor Emelianenko or middleweight Anderson Silva. UFC color commentator Joe Rogan responded to a fan's question, "Joe, is Fedor the greatest of all time? It's him or Anderson, and I could see the argument going either way honestly. Both guys have had truly magical moments in competition against some of the best in the world." Rules. The rules for modern mixed martial arts competitions have changed significantly since the early days of vale tudo, Japanese shoot wrestling, and UFC 1, and even more from the historic style of pankration. As the knowledge of fighting techniques spread among fighters and spectators, it became clear that the original minimalist rule systems needed to be amended. The main motivations for these rule changes were protection of the health of the fighters, the desire to shed the perception of barbarism and lawlessness, and to be recognized as a legitimate sport. The new rules included the introduction of weight classes. As knowledge about submission spread, differences in weight have become a significant factor. There are 9 different weight classes in the unified rules of mixed martial arts. These 9 weight classes include flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, heavyweight, and super heavyweight with no upper weight limit. Small, open-fingered gloves were introduced to protect fists, reduce the occurrence of cuts and encourage fighters to use their hands for striking to allow more captivating matches. Gloves were first made mandatory in Japan's Shuto promotion and were later adopted by the UFC as it developed into a regulated sport. Most professional fights have the fighters wear 4 ounces gloves, whereas some jurisdictions require amateurs to wear a slightly heavier 6 ounces glove for more protection for the hands and wrists. Time limits were established to avoid long fights with little action where competitors conserved their strength. Matches without time limits also complicated the airing of live events. The time limits in most professional fights are 3 5-minute rounds, and championship fights are normally 5 5-minute rounds. Similar motivations produced the stand-up rule, where the referee can stand fighters up if it is perceived that both are resting on the ground or not advancing toward a dominant position. In the U.S., state athletic and boxing commissions have played a crucial role in the introduction of additional rules because they oversee MMA in a similar fashion to boxing. In Japan and most of Europe, there is no regulating authority over competitions, so these organizations have greater freedom in rule development and event structure. Previously, Japan-based organization Pride Fighting Championships held an opening 10-minute round followed by 2 5-minute rounds. Stomps, Soccer kicks and knees to the head of a grounded opponent are legal, but elbow strikes to the head are not. This rule set is more predominant in the Asian-based organizations as opposed to European and American rules. More recently, Singapore-based organization One Fighting Championship allows soccer kicks and knees to the head of a grounded opponent as well as elbow strikes to the head, but does not allow head stomps. Victory. Victory in a match is normally gained either by the judge's decision after an allotted amount of time has elapsed, a stoppage by the referee or the fight doctor, a submission, by a competitor's and throwing in the towel, or by knockout. Knockout. As soon as a fighter is unable to continue due to legal strikes, his opponent is declared the winner. As MMA rules allow submissions and ground and pound, the fight is stopped to prevent further injury to the fighter. Submission. A fighter may admit defeat during a match by a tap on the opponent's body or mat floor, a verbal submission, technical submission. The referee stops the match when the fighter is caught in a submission hold and is in danger of being injured. Often it is when a fighter gets choked unconscious. Other times it is when a bone has been broken in a submission hold, technical knockout, referee stoppage. The ref may stop a match in progress if a fighter becomes dominant to the point where the opponent cannot intelligently defend himself and is taking excessive damage as a result. A fighter appears to be losing consciousness as he/she is being struck. A fighter appears to have a significant injury such as a cut or a broken bone. Doctor's stoppage cut. The referee will call for a timeout if a fighter's ability to continue is in question as a result of apparent injuries, such as a large cut. The ring doctor will inspect the fighter and stop the match if the fighter is deemed unable to continue safely, rendering the opponent the winner. However, if the match is stopped as a result of an injury from illegal actions by the opponent, either a disqualification or no contest will be issued instead. Corner stoppage. A fighter's cornermen may announce defeat on the fighter's behalf by throwing in the towel during the match in progress or between rounds. This is normally done when a fighter is being beaten to the point where it is dangerous and unnecessary. In some cases, the fighter may be injured. Retirement. A fighter is so dazed or exhausted that he/she cannot physically continue fighting. Decision. If the match goes the distance, then the outcome of the bout is determined by 3 judges. The judging criteria are organization-specific. Forfeit. A fighter or his representative may forfeit a match prior to the beginning of the match, thereby losing the match. Disqualification. A warning will be given when a fighter commits a foul or illegal action or does not follow the referee's instruction. 3 warnings will result in a disqualification. Moreover, if a fighter is unable to continue due to a deliberate illegal technique from his opponent, the opponent will be disqualified. No contest. In the event that both fighters commit a violation of the rules, or a fighter is unable to continue due to an injury from an accidental illegal technique, the match will be declared a no contest. MMA fighter ranking. MMA fighters get ranked according to their performance and outcome of their fights and level of competition they faced. The most popular and used ranking portals are Fight Matrix, ranks up to 250 fighters worldwide for every possible division. Sherdog, ranks top 10 fighters worldwide only for current available UFC divisions. Also used by ESPN, SB Nation, ranks top 14 fighters worldwide only for male divisions. Also used by USA Today. MyJunkie.com, ranks top 10 fighters worldwide for current UFC available divisions. UFC, ranks 15 UFC-signed fighters only, for each of its own divisions. Topology, ranks top 10 fighters worldwide for every possible division. MMA Rising, ranks top 10 fighters worldwide in every possible division. MMA Weekly, ranks top 10 male fighters worldwide in every possible division, and P4P for female fighters. Also used by Yahoo! Sports. Bleacher Report, ranks top 10 UFC fighters in each division. Fight Magazine, ranks top 5 fighters and only in male divisions. Ranking MMA, ranks top 20 male fighters worldwide in each division and also by promotions. Clothing. Mixed martial arts promotions typically require that male fighters wear shorts in addition to being bare-chested, thus precluding the use of GI or fighting kimono to inhibit or assist submission holds. Male fighters are required by most athletic commissions to wear groin protectors underneath their trunks. Female fighters wear short shorts and sports bras or other similarly snug-fitting tops. Both male and female fighters are required to wear a mouthguard. The need for flexibility in the legs combined with durability prompted the creation of various fighting shorts brands, which then spawned a range of mixed martial arts clothing and casual wear available to the public. Fighting area. According to UFC rules and regulations, an MMA competition or exhibition may be held in a ring or a fenced area. The fenced area can be round or have at least 6 sides. The fenced area is called a cage generically, or a hexagon, an octagon or an octagon cage, depending on the shape. Common disciplines. Most traditional martial arts have a specific focus and these arts may be trained to improve in that area. Popular disciplines of each type include, striking boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, karate, taekwondo, savate, sadja, shoot boxing, combat sambo, clinch, freestyle, Greco-Roman wrestling, sambo, sadja, shoot boxing, jiu-jitsu and judo are trained to improve clinching, takedowns, and throws, while Muay Thai is trained to improve the striking aspect of the clinch. Ground, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, submission wrestling, shoot wrestling, catch wrestling, judo, jiu-jitsu, and sambo are trained to improve ground control and position, as well as to achieve submission holds, and defend against them. Most styles have been adapted from their traditional form, such as boxing stances which lack effective counters to leg kicks and the Muay Thai stance which is poor for defending against takedowns due to the static nature, or judo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, techniques which must be adapted for no GI competition. It is common for a fighter to train with multiple coaches of different styles or an organized fight team to improve various aspects of their game at once. Cardiovascular conditioning, speed drills, strength training and flexibility are also important aspects of a fighter's training. Some schools advertise their styles as simply mixed martial arts, which has become a style in itself, but the training will still often be split into different sections. While mixed martial arts was initially practiced almost exclusively by competitive fighters, this is no longer the case. As the sport has become more mainstream and more widely taught, it has become accessible to a wider range of practitioners of all ages. Proponents of this sort of training argue that it is safe for anyone, of any age, with varying levels of competitiveness and fitness. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu came to international prominence in the martial arts community in the early 1990s, when Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu expert Royce Gracie won the first, second and fourth Ultimate Fighting Championships, which at the time were single-elimination martial arts tournaments. Royce fought against often much larger opponents who were practicing other styles, including boxing, wrestling, amateur wrestling, shoot fighting, karate and taekwondo. It has since become a staple art and key component for many MMA fighters. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is largely credited for bringing widespread attention to the importance of ground fighting. Sport BJJ tournaments continue to grow in popularity worldwide and have given rise to no GI submission grappling tournaments, such as the ADCC Submission Wrestling World Championship. It is primarily considered a ground-based fighting style, with emphasis on positioning, chokes and joint locks. Amateur wrestling. Amateur wrestling gained tremendous respect due to its effectiveness in mixed martial arts competitions. Wrestling is widely studied by mixed martial artists. Wrestling is also credited for conferring an emphasis on conditioning for explosive movement and stamina, both of which are critical in competitive mixed martial arts. It is known for excellent takedowns, particularly against the legs. Notable fighters include Chael Sonnen, Randy Couture, and Dan Henderson. Boxing. Boxing is a martial art that is widely used in MMA and is one of the primary striking bases for many fighters. Boxing punches account for the vast majority of strikes during the stand-up portion of a bout and also account for the largest number of significant strikes, knockdowns and KOs in MMA matches. Several aspects of boxing are extremely valuable such as footwork, use of combinations, and defensive techniques like slips, stance, and head movement. Boxing-based fighters have also been shown to throw and land a higher volume of strikes compared to other striking bases at a rate of 3.88 per minute with 9.64 per minute thrown. Some fighters that are known for using boxing are Nick Diaz, Junior Dos Santos, B.J. Penn, Dan Hardy and Shane Carwin. Catch wrestling. Carl Gotch was a catch wrestler and a student of Billy Riley's Snake Pit in Whalley, Wigan. In the film Catch, The Hold Not Taken, some of those who trained with Gotch in Wigan talk of his fascination with the traditional Lancashire style of wrestling and how he was inspired to stay and train at Billy Riley's after experiencing its effects firsthand during a professional show in Manchester, England. After leaving Wigan, he later went on to teach catch wrestling to Japanese professional wrestlers in the 1970s to students including Antonio Inoki, Tozumi Fujinami, Hiro Matsuda, Osamu Ukeda, Satoru Sayama and Yoshiaki Fujiwara. Starting from 1976, one of these professional wrestlers, Inoki, hosted a series of mixed martial arts bouts against the champions of other disciplines. This resulted in unprecedented popularity of the Clash of Styles bouts in Japan. His matches showcased catch wrestling moves like the sleeper hold, cross arm breaker, seated armor, Indian deathlock and collock. Carl Gotch's students formed the original Universal Wrestling Federation in 1984 which gave rise to shoot-style matches. The UWF movement was led by catch wrestlers and gave rise to the mixed martial arts boom in Japan. Wigan standout Billy Robinson soon thereafter began training MMA legend Kazushi Sakuraba. Catch wrestling forms the base of Japan's martial art of shoot wrestling. Japanese professional wrestling and a majority of the Japanese fighters from Pan-Raise, Shuto and the now-defunct rings bear links to catch wrestling. The term no-holds-barred was used originally to describe the wrestling method prevalent in catch wrestling tournaments during the late 19th century wherein no wrestling holds were banned from the competition, regardless of how dangerous they might be. The term was applied to mixed martial arts matches, especially at the advent of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Judo. Using their knowledge of ni-waza ground grappling and taki-waza standing grappling, several judo practitioners have also competed in mixed martial arts matches. Anderson Silva, who is the top-ranked fighter in the world, maintains a black belt in judo. Former Russian national judo championship bronze medalist Fedor Emelianenko, famous UFC fighter Karo Parian, Jim Wallhead, Rick Horn, Ramo Thierry Sokajo, Olympic medalists Hidehiko Yoshida, rising contender Dong Hyun Kim as a fourth-degree judo black belt, and Ronda Rousey, now Strikeforce and the Ultimate Fighting Championship women's bantamweight champion. Paulo Filho, a former WEC middleweight champion, has credited judo for his success during an interview. Karate. Karate has proved to be effective in the sport as it is one of the core foundations of kickboxing, and specializes in striking techniques. Various styles of karate are practiced by some MMA fighters, notably Chuck Liddell, Lyoto Machida, Stephen Thompson, John McDessie, Uriah Hall, Ryan Jimmo and Georges St. Pierre. Liddell is known to have an extensive striking background in Kenpo with Fabio Marto, whereas Lyoto Machida practices Shotokan Ryu, and St. Pierre practices Kyokushin. Kickboxing. Kickboxing is widely used by MMA fighters as it is seen as a great way to practice stand-up striking. Fighters such as Michael Bisping, Alistair Overeem, and Cyril Dibate. Muay Thai. Muay Thai, along with boxing, is recognized as a foundation for striking in mixed martial arts and is widely practiced and taught. One of the primary benefits of training in Muay Thai for MMA is its versatility. Techniques include long, middle and short range with everything from kicks to clinch holds and throws. It originated in Thailand, and is known as the art of 8 weapons, which refers to the use of the legs, knees, elbows and fists. It is a very aggressive and straightforward style. Most prominent MMA fighters with strong Muay Thai background are Anderson Silva, Shogun Rua and Duane Ludwig. Strategies. The techniques utilized in mixed martial arts competition generally fall into 2 categories, striking techniques and grappling techniques. Today, Mixed martial artists must cross-train in a variety of styles to counter their opponent's strengths and remain effective in all the phases of combat. Sprawl and Brawl. Sprawl and Brawl is a stand-up fighting tactic that consists of effective stand-up striking, while avoiding ground fighting, typically by using sprawls to defend against takedowns. A sprawl and brawler is usually a boxer or kickboxer, Thai boxer or karate fighter who is trained in various styles of wrestling, judo, and/or sambo to avoid takedowns to keep the fight standing. These fighters will often study submission wrestling to avoid being forced into submission in case they find themselves on the ground. This style can be deceptively different from traditional kickboxing styles, since sprawl and brawlers must adapt their techniques to incorporate takedown and ground fighting defense. Mirko Filipovic, Chuck Liddell and more recently Junior Dos Santos are best known proponents of this fighting style in MMA. Clinch fighting. Clinch fighting is a tactic consisting of using a clinch hold to prevent the opponent from moving away into more distant striking range, while also attempting takedowns and striking the opponent using knees, stomps, elbows, and punches. The clinch is often utilized by wrestlers and judokas that have added components of the striking game, and Muay Thai fighters. Wrestlers and judoka may use clinch fighting as a way to neutralize the superior striking skills of a stand-up fighter or to prevent takedowns by a superior ground fighter. Ronda Rousey, with her judo background, is considered a master at initiating throws from the clinch to set up armars. The clinch or plum of a Muay Thai fighter is often used to improve the accuracy of knees and elbows by physically controlling the position of the opponent. Anderson Silva is well known for his devastating Muay Thai clinch. He defeated UFC middleweight champion Rich Franklin using the Muay Thai clinch and kneeing Franklin repeatedly to the body and face, breaking Franklin's nose. In their rematch, Silva repeated this and won again. Other fighters may use the clinch to push their opponent against the cage or ropes, where they can effectively control their opponent's movement and restrict mobility while striking them with punches to the body or stomps, also known as dirty boxing. Randy Couture used his Greco-Roman wrestling background to popularize this style en route to 6 title reigns in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. In general, fighters who cannot win fights through lightning offense, or are more suited to win fights in the later rounds or via decision, are commonly known as grinders. Grinders basically shut down their opponent's game plan and chip away at them via clinching, smothering and ground and pound for most of the rounds. Prominent examples of grinders are Pat Healy and Chael Sonnen. In the year 2000, MMA play-by-play commentator Stephen Quadros coined the popular phrase lay and pray. This refers to a situation where a wrestler or grappler keeps another fighter pinned or controlled on the mat to avoid a stand-up, yet exhibiting little or no urgency to finish the grounded opponent with a knockout or a submission and basically stalling a decision for the entire or most of the fight, basically taking the opponent down, holding on tight, referee stands them back up, and repeat again, a sort of extreme form of defensive wrestling. The inference lay and pray is that the wrestler-grappler takes the striker down, lays on him to neutralize the opponent's striking weapons, and prays that the referee does not return them to the standing position. This style is considered by many fans as the most boring style of fighting and is highly criticized for intentionally creating non-action, yet it is effective, and some argue that lay and pray is justified and that it is the responsibility of the downed fighter to be able to protect himself from this legitimate fighting philosophy. Many consider John Fitch to be the poster boy for lay and pray. UFC welterweight champion Georges St-Pierre has been criticized by fans for playing it safe and applying the lay and pray tactic in his fights, and so has Bellator MMA welterweight champion Ben Askren, who justified applying lay and pray, explaining that champion fights are much harder because they are 5 rounds long compared to the usual 3-round fights. Ground and pound. Ground and pound is a strategy consisting of taking an opponent to the ground using a takedown or throw, obtaining a top or dominant grappling position, and then striking the opponent, primarily with fists, homurfists, and elbows. Ground and pound is also used as a precursor to attempting submission holds. The style is used by fighters well versed in submission defense and skilled at takedowns. They take the fight to the ground, maintain a grappling position, and strike until their opponent submits or is knocked out. Although not a traditional style of striking, the effectiveness and reliability of ground and pounders made it a popular tactic. It was first demonstrated as an effective technique by Mark Coleman, then popularized by fighters such as Chael Sonnen, Don Frye, Frank Trigg, John Jones, Sheik Congo, Mark Kerr, Frank Shamrock, Tito Ortiz, Matt Hughes, and Chris Weidman. While most fighters utilize ground and pound statically, by way of holding their opponents down and mauling them with short strikes from the top position, a few fighters manage to utilize it dynamically by striking their opponents while changing positions, thus not allowing their opponents to settle once they take them down. Cain Velasquez is one of the most devastating ground strikers in MMA. He attacks his opponents on the ground while transitioning between positions. Whether he's moving from mount to back mount or from turtle to side control, he is constantly landing shots. Fedor Emelianenko, who is considered the greatest master of ground and pound in MMA history, was the first to demonstrate this dynamic style of ground and pound. He was striking his opponents on the ground while passing guard or while his opponents were attempting to recover guard. Today, strikes on the ground are an essential part of a fighter's training. Submission grappling. Submission grappling is a reference to the ground fighting tactic consisting of taking an opponent to the ground using a takedown or throw and then applying a submission hold, forcing the opponent to submit. While grapplers will often work to attain dominant position, some may be more comfortable fighting from other positions. If a grappler finds themselves unable to force a takedown, they may resort to pulling guard, whereby they physically pull their opponent into a dominant position on the ground. Submissions are an essential part of many disciplines, most notably Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, catch wrestling, judo, sambo, and shoot wrestling. They were popularized in the early UFC events by Royce Gracie and Ken Shamrock. Score-oriented fighting, especially used by fighters with strong wrestling background facing a highly skilled BJJ opponent, or by wrestlers who prefer stand-up fights. Usually fighters who adopt this strategy use takedowns only for scoring, easily allowing the adversary to stand up and continue the fight. They also want to land clear strikes and control the octagon. In order to win the fight by decision, all score-oriented fighters have to master perfect MMA defense techniques and avoid takedowns. Paradoxically, MMA fighters who sometimes prefer this strategy have some of the most outstanding fights. To note the most prominent figures: Frankie Edgar, Georges St-Pierre and Demetrius Johnson. Women's competition. While mixed martial arts is primarily a male-dominated sport, it does have female athletes. Female competition in Japan includes promotions such as the all-female Valkyrie, and Jules. However, historically there has been only a select few major professional mixed martial arts organizations in the United States that invite women to compete. Among those are Strikeforce, Bellator Fighting Championships, the All-Female Invicta Fighting Championships, and the now-defunct Elite XC. There has been a growing awareness of women in mixed martial arts due to popular female fighters and personalities such as Megumi Fuyuya, Miesha Tate, Christiane Cyborg Santos, Ronda Rousey, and Gina Carano, among others. Carano became known as the face of women's MMA after appearing in a number of Elite XC events. This was furthered by her appearances on MGM Television's 2008 revival of their game show American Gladiators. History. In Japan, female competition has been documented since the mid-1990s. Influenced by female professional wrestling and kickboxing, the SMAC Girl competition was formed in 2001 and became the only major all-female promotion in mixed martial arts. Other early successful Japanese female organizations included Ladies Legend Pro Wrestling, Remix, U-Top Tournament, K-Grace, and Axe. Aside from all-female organizations, most major Japanese male-dominated promotions have held select female competitions. These have included Deep, Mars, Gladiator, Heat, Cage Force, K1, Sengoku, Shuto, and Panraise. In the United States, prior to the success of The Ultimate Fighter reality show that launched mixed martial arts into the mainstream media, there was no major coverage of female competitions. Some early organizations who invited women to compete included International Fighting Championships, Super Brawl, King of the Cage, Rage in the Cage, Ring of Combat, Baz Rutten Invitational, and HOOKN Shoot. From the mid-2000s, more coverage came when organizations such as Striker Force, Elite XC, Bellator Fighting Championships, and Shark Fights invited women to compete. Outside of Japan and the United States, female competition is almost exclusively found in minor local promotions. However, in Europe some major organizations have held select female competitions, including its Showtime, Shooto Europe, Cage Warriors, and M1 Global. Following Zuffa's acquisition of Striker Force in March 2011, there has been lots of speculation concerning the future of women's competition, in terms both of relevance and popularity. The next step was for the UFC to pick up women's MMA, however UFC President Dana White has been resistant. He has said, "There is not enough depth to create a women's division." Rule differentiation. The traditional MMA rules have often been adjusted for female competitions because of safety concerns. In Japan, Remix prohibited ground and pound and featured a 20-second time limit for ground fighting. This rule remained following Remix's 2001 rebranding as SmackGirl, though the time limit was extended to 30 seconds. The rule was abolished in 2008. In the United States, women's bouts organized by Elite XC saw 3-minute rounds while those of Striker Force were originally of 2 minutes duration. These lengths compare to the more usual 5 minutes for men. They later changed this rule to allow for 5-minute rounds. Another form of rule differentiation is a change in both weight limits and weight classification. This has been seen in a number of organizations including Striker Force, SmackGirl, and Valkyrie. Milestones. One of the first major female MMA fights was Gina Carano's Striker Force debut against Elena Maxwell where Carano won via unanimous decision at Striker Force, Triple Threat in San Jose on December 8, 2006. Striker Force has become the first major promotion in the United States to have held a female fight as the main event on August 15, 2009. The fight between Carano and Christiane Santos attracted 856,000 viewers. Santos made history with her victory over Carano as she became the first Striker Force Women's 145 lb champion. Disagreement. Since its inception, the role of women in mixed martial arts has been a subject of debate. Some observers have treated women's competition as a spectacle and a taboo topic. In December 2004, lightweight fighter Takumi Yano refused to participate in a pan-raise event in protest of there being female bouts on the same card. Amateur and professional mixed martial arts. Amateur and professional mixed martial arts is a full-contact combat sport that incorporates striking and wrestling grappling techniques. Under the World MMA Council World Mixed Martial Arts Association, the International Mixed Martial Arts Federation amateur only and the International Federation of Associated Wrestling Styles, it is practiced within a safe and regulated environment which relies on a fair and objective scoring system and competition procedures similar to those in force in the unified rules of mixed martial arts. Amateur MMA is practiced with board shorts and a rash guard along with approved protection gear that includes headgear, shin protectors, and gloves that allow grabbing and holding the opponent for a comfortable application of grappling techniques. World Mixed Martial Arts Association, WMMAA, was founded in 2012 in Monaco by M1 Global Commercial Promoters and is under the leadership of CEO Vadim Finkelstein and Fedor Emelianenko. The World MMA Association is an organization that manages and develops mixed martial arts. It establishes rules and procedures and hosts MMA competitions. World MMA Association includes national MMA organizations, representing the sport and registered in accordance with national laws. As of December 2013, WMMAA has 38 member states under its umbrella: Afghanistan, Albania, Armenia, Austria, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Czech Republic, France, Georgia, Greece, India, Iran, Italy, Kazakhstan, Latvia, Lithuania, Macedonia, Moldova, Monaco, Mongolia, the Netherlands, Portugal, Romania, Russia, Senegal, Serbia, Slovakia, South Korea, Spain, Switzerland, Tajikistan, Trinidad and Tobago, Turkey, Ukraine, Uzbekistan. On October 20, 2013, the first ever World MMA Championship was held in St. Petersburg, Russia. WMMAA Pan American Division. On July 4, 2014, the first ever Pan American Division for the World MMA Association was created under the leadership of business magnate Thomas Yu, during the 2014 WMMAA Congress that was held in Amsterdam, Netherlands. International Mixed Martial Arts Federation. On February 29, 2012, the International Mixed Martial Arts Federation was set up to bring international structure, development and support to mixed martial arts worldwide. The IMMAF is a non-profit, democratic federation organized according to international federation standards to ensure that MMA as a sport is allowed the same recognition, representation and rights as all other major sports. The IMMAF is registered under Swedish law and is founded on democratic principles, as outlined in their statutes. As of January 2014, there are 30 total members from 30 countries, which come from Austria, Belgium, Brazil, Cameroon, Canada, Denmark, El Salvador, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Iceland, Ireland, Italy, Jordan, Lebanon, Lithuania, Nepal, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Portugal, Romania, Seychelles, Sweden, Switzerland, Tajikistan, Ukraine, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America. The IMMAF holds its first Amateur World Championships in Las Vegas, USA, from June 30 to July 6, 2014. International Federation of Associated Wrestling Styles, Amateur Mixed Martial Arts as governed by FILA. It is practiced within a safe and regulated environment which relies on a fair and objective scoring system and competition procedures similar to those in force in Olympic wrestling. FILA considers that the implementation of an amateur variant that could guarantee a safe training environment and a competition systems complying with the Olympic standards has become an urgent necessity for all athletes wishing to engage in a professional career. Safety. Mixed martial arts competitions have changed dramatically since the first Ultimate Fighting Championship in 1993, specifically with the inception of the unified rules of mixed martial arts. A paucity of data on injuries that occur in MMA and the resulting concerns and controversy with regard to unregistered trademark safety remain. A recent systematic review concluded that the injury incidence rate in MMA appears to be greater than in most, if not all, other popular and commonly practiced combat sports. Injury rates. In a recent meta-analysis of the available injury data in MMA, the injury incidence rate was estimated to be 228.7 injuries per 1,000 athlete exposures. The estimated injury incidence rate in MMA is greater than in other full-contact combat sports such as judo, taekwondo, amateur boxing, and professional boxing. Injury pattern. In general, the injury pattern in MMA is very similar to that in professional boxing but unlike that found in other combat sports such as judo and taekwondo. The most commonly injured body region is the head followed by the wrist-hand, while the most frequent types of injury were laceration, fracture, and concussion. Mental health. In preliminary results reported in April 2012 as part of an ongoing study of 109 professional boxers and MMA fighters being conducted by Dr. Charles Bernick and his colleagues at Cleveland Clinic, a unregistered trademark Lourevo Center for Brain Health, fighters with more than 6 years of ring experience were observed to have reductions in size in their hippocampus and thalamus, whereas fighters with more than 12 years of ring experience were observed to have both reductions in size and symptoms such as memory loss. Dr. Bernick speculates that studying cumulative lesser blows may eventually prove even more important than studying infrequent concussions. Fatalities. While competition in the MMA have been occasionally depicted as brutal by the media, there were no documented cases of deaths after a sanctioned MMA event prior to 2007. It has been noted that use of the word sanction can be perceived as spin by those who market the discipline. In the period of 2007 to 2010, there were 2 fatalities in mixed martial arts matches. The first was the death of Sam Vasquez on November 30, 2007. Vasquez collapsed shortly after being knocked out by Vince Lombardi in the third round of an October 20, 2007 fight at the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas. Vasquez had two separate surgeries to remove blood clots from his brain, and shortly after the second operation suffered a devastating stroke and never regained consciousness. The second death stemming from a sanctioned mixed martial arts contest occurred in South Carolina on June 28, 2010, when 30-year-old Michael Kirkham was knocked out and never regained consciousness. He was pronounced dead 2 days after the fight. There have been 7 known deaths in MMA to date. Legality of professional competitions, United States. In the United States, professional MMA is overseen by the Association of Boxing Commissions. According to the Associations of Boxing Commissions, professional MMA competitions are allowed in nearly all states. Alaska has no boxing or athletic commission. Montana has a state athletic commission although it doesn't regulate MMA, however MMA is legal in both states. West Virginia became the 44th state to regulate mixed martial arts on March 24, 2011. On March 8, 2012, Wyoming became the 45th state to regulate MMA. On May 4, 2012, it was announced that Vermont had become the 46th state to regulate MMA. In May 2012, the New York State Assembly failed to overturn the state's ban on mixed martial arts. Legislation allowing MMA in Connecticut came into effect on October 1, 2013, making it the 47th state to regulate the sport. Brazil, January 17, 2013 saw the announcement that the Brazilian MMA Athletic Commission, or Comissão Atlética Brasileira de MMA, had joined the International MMA Federation. The CABMMA represents state federations across Brazil and is spearheaded by lawyers Giovanni Biscardi and Rafael Favetia, a former executive secretary of the Minister of Justice and interim Minister of Justice. The CABMMA supervised its first event with UFC on FX7 on January 19, 2013 at Ibirapuera Gymnasium in Sao Paulo. The CABMMA first hit international sports headlines when it suspended fighter Rousimar Poiers for prolonging a submission on opponent Mike Pierce, despite him tapping several times, during UFC Fight Night 29 in Barueri, Brazil on October 9, 2013. The CABMMA was called to preside over another controversy to involve a Brazilian competitor, when Vitabel 40 unregistered trademark S use of testosterone replacement therapy came to light over UFC on FX8, Canada. For many years, professional MMA competitions were illegal in Canada. Section 83(2) of the Canadian Criminal Code deemed that only boxing matches where only fists are used are considered legal. However, most provinces regulated it by a provincial athletic commission by classifying MMA as a Euro-OE mixed boxing Euro, such as the provinces of Manitoba, Ontario, Nova Scotia, Quebec, and Northwest Territories. The legality of MMA in the provinces of Alberta, British Columbia, and New Brunswick varies depending on the municipality. Professional MMA competitions remain illegal in the Canadian provinces of Newfoundland and Labrador, Prince Edward Island, Saskatchewan, Yukon, and Nunavut because it is not regulated by an athletic commission. Canada formally decriminalized mixed martial arts with a vote on Bill S-209 on June 5, 2013. The bill formally gives provinces the power to create athletic commissions to regulate and sanction professional mixed martial arts bouts. Bill S-209 does not in and of itself make MMA legal across Canada, it allows provinces to make it legal on a province-by-province basis. China, in 2011, the Rannik Ultimate Fighting Federation hosted the first MMA event in Shanghai sanctioned by China's governing body for combat sports, the Wushu Sports Management Center of the General Administration of Sport in China. RUF formally crowned the first Chinese national MMA champions in 2013 with each champion receiving 1 million RMB in prize money. Other MMA promotions in China includes Real Fight Championship, which has produced 3 events in Henan and Beijing. Ireland, Mixed Martial Arts Federation Ireland gained membership status under the International MMA Federation in June 2012. On March 13, 2013, an unprecedented meeting took place between representatives of the MMAFI and the Northern Ireland unregistered trademark's Minister for Culture and Sport, Cara El Nachwila N. According to reports, the minister pledged her full backing to the establishment of a recognised governing body for MMA in Ireland. And the Sports Council was instructed to develop the necessary process for the establishment of the MMAFI into a recognised governing body. Japan, MMA competition has been legal in Japan since at least the mid-1980s, when pan-race fights began to be held. There are several MMA-related organizations, including Deep, Pan-race, Shuto and ZST. Norway. In Norway, sports that involve knockouts as a means of securing victory or points are illegal, including MMA and boxing. Norwegian MMA fighters must therefore travel abroad to compete. The Norwegian MMA Federation was elected as a full member of the International MMA Federation on April 22, 2012, representing 49 member gyms across Norway. In 2012, the A-Euro-OE Euro concept was introduced by the NMMAF, with government sanctioning, that enables member MMA gyms to hold events with sparring matches, but governed by strict rules concerning how hard a fighter is permitted to strike. Russia. In September 2012, MMA was given national sport status in Russia, and on the same day fighter and M1 global promoter Fedor Emelianenko was appointed to the role of Russian MMA Union president. Sweden, MMA competition is legal and under the purview of the Swedish Mixed Martial Arts Federation, which was formed in 2007 and began overseeing MMA events and governing the sport as a whole in 2008. In 2009, the SMMAF was accepted into the Association of Swedish Budo and Martial Arts Federation, thus granting MMA a Euro-OE national sport Euro status and making its approved clubs eligible for partial government subsidization. On April 30, 2011, the SMMAF sanctioned the first event under its purview to utilize the unified rules of mixed martial arts. The Swedish Mixed Martial Arts Federation governs the sport of MMA in Sweden as a member affiliated to the International Mixed Martial Arts Federation. The SMMAF hit the headlines when it withdrew Swedish headliner, Alexander Gustafsson, from competing at UFC on Fuel 9 in Sweden, due to a facial laceration. South Africa, MMA competition is legal and under the purview of the Professional Mixed Martial Arts Council or PROMA Africa, which was formed in 2010 with its main purpose to regulate MMA at larger MMA promotions such as EFC Africa. PROMA Africa began overseeing Rise of the Warrior MMA events in 2010. In 2012, the PROMA Africa Council was accepted into the Mixed Martial Arts Association of South Africa, thus granting MMA a Euro-OE national sport Euro status. In addition to EFC Africa, there are other leagues such as Dragon Legends MMA. Thailand. In 2012, the Sports Authority of Thailand banned competitions. It has been speculated that the Muay Thai industry played a factor in the Sports Authority of Thailand's final decision, as MMA could potentially take away business from Muay Thai, from fighters to profit. SAT Deputy Governor Zakul Wanapong has said organizing an MMA event here would hurt the image of Muay Thai. If you want to do this kind of business, you should do it in another country. Organizing MMA here could mislead the public into believing that Muay Thai is brutal. Jesse Salaranta, the owner of Thailand's only MMA promotion, Dare Fight Sports, revealed that his lawyers found that the ban was actually premature, and that from a legal standpoint, there is no law banning mixed martial arts in the country, and that the SAT's ban was more of a scare tactic. Because of this, Dare continue to showcase events that fans are only informed at the last minute through texts on the day of the event, and videos are put up on YouTube entitled The Most Dangerous Game Show. Salaranta has also helped set up the MMA Association of Thailand, in the hopes of reaching a compromise with SAT in regulating mixed martial arts in Thailand. On September 12, 2013, Dare Fight Sports released a statement announcing SAT had removed the ban on MMA and would henceforth sanction the sport in Thailand. Cambodia. In January 2013, the Cambodian Mixed Martial Arts Association was created under the Cambodian Martial Arts Federation. At this time there are no MMA events organized with the CMMAA approval. Television channel MYTV holds its KWC promotion under the sanctioning of the Cambodian Boxing Federation, responsible for sanctioning all boxing and Kunkamaya events in the country, in direct contrast to the situation in neighbouring Thailand. Australia. MMA in Australia is sanctioned in all states and territories of Australia by various combat sports authorities organisations. There is debate about the use of the cage, which is banned in Victoria and Western Australia. Fighter pay. The pay in MMA has been criticised. The sport has been monopolised by the UFC, who take most of the revenue and put it back into the business, leaving fighters with a small percentage of the pay. The bonus structure has also been criticised, with one fighter calling it a means of control because they keep you guessing. The bonus structure has been used by Dana White as a way to manipulate the public's view on fighter pay, because whenever the topic comes up the bonus structure is used as a defense, and he states you do not know the bonuses the fighters get. See also: Hybrid martial arts, list of current mixed martial arts champions, list of female mixed martial artists, list of male mixed martial artists, list of mixed martial artists with the most sanctioned fights, mixed martial arts clothing, shoot fighting, references. External links: Vivemma, Latin American Authority on Mixed Martial Arts, World Mixed Martial Arts Association, International Mixed Martial Arts Federation, Association of Boxing Commissions, Unified Rules of MMA, International Sport Combat Federation, FILA, Amateur Mixed Martial Arts, MMA Media Profiles and Bios.